Perfect. Hello, everybody. How you guys all doing? Good, good. Thank you for making it to the end of the day. Apologies, I wanted to be here all day. I had to teach this morning. And as we all know, when students come, they got to take first seat. So thank you for putting up with me being late today. In case, how many of you, I've recognized a lot of you. How many of you don't have any clue who the heck I am? Good. Oh, sweet. Perfect. Welcome to the party. In case you can't tell, I am ridiculously easy. So anytime you have a question, doubt, concern, something doesn't make sense, you want to go down a rabbit hole, bother me. I'm all yours. Shout at me, throw at me, do whatever you got to do to get my attention. I'm here for you. Cool? Cool, cool. All right. I've kind of tweaked my talk a bit today just because I really wanted to focus here on this concept of resilience. Now, I'm not a big fan of just saying do X, Y, Z. I'm a big fan of saying, how do things work? What's the underlying reason for their function? The idea being that once you know the foundation, then you can jump up and start to make it your own up here. If I tell you to do X, Y, Z, cool, you can follow a recipe. But if I give you why that recipe works, now you can tweak the recipe. Now you can make it suit your context. So I'm really gung-ho today on figuring out what is resilience, why does it work, what's its underlying pattern. And ideally that will give us some ideas up here. So to understand how this sucker works, we got to go into this lovely lady here. The brain. Now beautiful, yes? Have you been studying her all day? Oh, we're sick of this thing. I love this. This is my baby. I don't want to go into the details. You know the neurons, the synapses. I want to go into the function. How does it actually work? And the easiest way to understand this is to kind of walk through history. How did we used to think about it up till now? How do we understand it today? So back in the day, we used to just think it was an all-purpose meat computer, right? You have a brain that thinks. Your stomach digests, your lungs breathe, your brain thinks. That's all it does. Cool. Then this guy came along. Does anything look unique about him? Something a little wonky's going on over here. He's kind of winking at us. So what happened to Phineas Gage, he used to work for the railroad. And he had the unfortunately named job of a blower for the railroad. So bear with me, a different time. I guess you get away with this stuff. So when you're laying down railroad tracks and you get to a hill, you've got three choices. You go around the hill, you tunnel through the hill, or you blow the hill up. He's a blower, so guess what he does? He just blows up hills. That's what he does. So he goes up there, he digs holes, he fills it with black powder. That's his explosive. Now, black powder, when it's loose, it's not actually explosive. Like, if you've ever played with a sparkler, that's black powder loose. It just fizzes. What do you have to do to black powder to make it explosive? You have to get it tight. You have to compact that stuff. It's not enough to be loose. You got to get it tight. So he digs his hole. He fills it with black powder. He's like, I need something to kind of tamp this down. Hey, engineers, do you guys have a tool I could use? They said, we sure do, big guy. We got this giant metal rod with a pointed end on it. So he's like, cool, all right. So he digs his hole, fills it with black powder, puts this on there, starts hitting this with his hammer. Now, what do you think might happen every once in a while when you hit a metal pole with a metal hammer? So he comes down, kicks off a spark, the spark ignites the black powder, and it shoots this pole up. This pole catches him right above the left jaw here. So it takes his left eye out from the inside. It catches the optic nerve and yanks it in, takes the entire front part of his brain out, shoots out of the top of his head. This thing lands 30 meters behind him. That's how much force it came up with. And what do you think happened to Mr. Phineas Gage? He didn't. He didn't even lose consciousness. He picked up his hammer and he went right back to work. Now, in hindsight, you almost certainly, he has to have shock. Like, you don't blow off half your brain and go, well, still on the clock. So, like, he's not thinking right. But here we've got a guy who just lost a brain, back to work. We were right. It's just an all-purpose meat computer. You can tear it out, throw it around. It doesn't matter. Just look at this guy. But then weird things start happening. So, before this accident, Phineas Gage is just a normal dude. Wife, kids, work, cool. Afterwards, things start to change. So really quickly after the accident, he decides, I don't want to go to work anymore, so he just quits going. Fair enough, I wouldn't want to go back either. But then he's like, I really don't feel like taking care of my wife and kids anymore, so he kicks them out. Then he doesn't want to be around people anymore, so he just moves into the middle of nowhere, and he just, blah. He just becomes this curmudgeonly, he just sits there, doesn't want to interact, doesn't want to talk. The people who know him say, look, the Phineas Gage before that accident, totally different than the Phineas Gage after. Something changed. So it's from him we learned, okay, you don't have a brain, You've got dozens and dozens of mini brains all scattered throughout here, all doing their own job. So in his case, right, he rips out all these brains in the front, things that give him drive, emotion, energy, want to connect with other people. Still has these ones back here, carry a hammer, work, walk, breathe, got all those, just loses these ones in the front. So cool, we're not a brain, we're dozens of independent brains. Which begs the question, how does all of this come together to make one me? How do I have one experience from a multitude of brains? And our first answer came from here. I'm going to play you a video. I've taken out the picture. All we're going to do is hear the sound. I just want you to give a listen and tell me, what is this woman saying?
Okay, here we go. Baba. Baba.
What's she saying?
Baba.
Baba. Cool. Easy as.
Baba.
Now I'm going to play you that same video, except this time I'm going to show you her face. Same thing. I haven't changed anything. We're just going to watch her and tell me, what is she saying?
Okay, here we go. Baba. Baba.
What is it?
Baba.
Dada?
Baba.
Close your eyes.
Baba.
With your eyes closed, what is she saying?
Baba.
Open your eyes.
Baba.
Huh.
Baba.
Okay. So why do we think... Shut up. she'll do that for 5 hours on loop. So wait a second. What sound is coming out of the speakers? Like, what is the actual noise coming into our ears? Baba. That never changes. Why do we all of a sudden hear something different when we see her mouth? Her lips are saying something else. Here, let me go back. I'm going to hit mute. What are her lips saying? Gaga. Okay, so we get Baba coming in our ears. We get Gaga coming into our eyes. Put those two together and we get... Whoops. Oh, sorry. Dada? Okay, here's our theory. The world comes in through your senses. You get touch, smell, sight, sound, all this comes in. Those signals trigger off all these baby programs in the brain. And the next thing that happens is it all just kind of gloms together. We all just sit in some one global average. So we get Baba here, Gaga here, right in the middle is Dada. And that's how the world works. Thank God, seriously, that was our theory for about 5 years. Thank goodness somebody stood up and said, wait, that doesn't make a whole heap of sense. Otherwise, why does this work? All right, you know anytime someone talks about the brain, you're going to have to play this at least once, so let's do it. I'm going to pop a color up in this box. All you got to do, as quickly as you can, tell me that color. Here we go. Okay. With the exception of the orangey red, cool. We know our colors, rock and roll. Round 2, I'm going to pop a word in this box. All you got to do, tell me that word as quickly as you can.
Red, green, red, purple, blue, green, red, blue, purple.
Sweet. All right. We know our words. We know our colors. This is wonderful. Late in the day, this is great. All right. You know what's happening, right? Here we go. I'm going to pop a word up in this box, but this time each word is going to be written in a different colored font. Your job, as quickly as you can, tell me what color that word is written in. So I don't care about the word. I don't want to hear that word. I want to know what color the letters of that word are. Here we go, out loud so we can all hear you. Let us begin. Oh. Oh. Someone was doing all right over here. What were you squinting? I was just going to look at the corner of the word. Oh. Did you feel it? Did you feel that crunch? Yeah. So go back. We've got multiple mini brains. You see something like this. You've got one bit of your brain that likes what? Words. Does it care what else is going on in the world? Look, I've got one job. Words, there's a word, I'm doing it. You got another bit of your brain that likes what? Colors. Does it care what else is happening? I exist for one purpose. Colors, there's a color, I'm doing it. You got word bit, color bit, they're both going. Now, according to our last theory, we should have just averaged these two together. We should have had purple over here, red over here, and we all should have just said, Rurple, whatever's in the middle, that's odd, pred. We're going to go with pred, cool. But we didn't. We felt this battle, and in the end, we were able to select one brain out. It took a second, but we were able to go red. which means, okay, we don't just average things, we must have a controller. Sitting somewhere in our brain must be a module, a node that can coordinate, control, organize all these other modules. Now, if you had to pick a spot in your brain where you think your controller sits, where do you think this guy lives? Bingo. We originally thought maybe it was deep in the middle, because then I would have access to everything. Turns out the middle of your brain is the oldest part of your brain. This guy's the newest part. So what's our newest brain? The brain that makes us us. That prefrontal cortex. Guess where your controller sits? And here we go. Here's how the system works. The world comes in through your senses and triggers off all these individual brains. We got color bit going, we got word bit going, all these are going. Now the controller can organize all these other baby brains by sending out a single signal. This thing does its job by sending out one message. It never turns anything on, it never activates anything. What's the only thing your controller does? Shuts things down. It's a massive inhibitor. And here's how the brain works. The world comes in, turns the brains on, the controller can go nope, 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 turn off whatever it doesn't want, and whatever is left, congratulations, that's reality. And just as an interesting aside, guess what part of the brain is going haywire in teenagers? The part of the brain that turns off other parts of the brain is just sending out messages willy-nilly. Have you ever noticed that teenagers sometimes can be bored, disengaged, hard to connect with, as though they don't even care? Congratulations, we're starting to get an idea why. Now there's more to it, I won't go in depth in there, but for now, cool, here's our picture. World turns it on, controller turns it off, everything else is just noise. 60 years, this is how we spoke about the brain. We thought, cool, it's done, put your lab coats away, science is over, we got it, the rest is just details. And then this happened. 12 black lines and 1 green square changed everything we thought we knew about the brain and how it works. So right now, some of you, it's already happening, but for the rest of you who are wondering why I'm showing you this cube, what I want you to do is I want you to pretend that this green face, pretend it's like a piece of glass so we can see through it. I want you to pretend that that green face is the front of the cube. So the cube starts on that green face, goes away from you, down, and to the left. And if you got it in the front, push it to the back now. Make the green the back of the cube. So now the cube starts here on this clear face, goes away from you, up, and to the right. And if you got it in the back, bring it to the front. If it's sitting in the front, push it to the back. Is there anyone that can't do it that's still going, what the hell y'all talking about? If you can't do it, just look away and come back or change screens. It might start doing it on its own. But if you can't do it, well, there's still more to come. But for those of us who can do it, here's the question you got to ask. Am I changing this picture right now? Like, am I flipping between 2 different cubes? So the world is not changing. The signals coming off of the screen, entering my eyes, triggering off baby brains, exactly the same right now as 10 seconds ago, yet you can see 2 different things. Who's doing this? Well, think, if the best the controller can do is shut down programs, this should come in, activate programs, and the best we can do is see it or not see it, on or off. But here, not only do we see it, we can tweak it, we can morph it, we can change it. How are we doing that? Now, just because this is so important, let's do another one. Oh. Now, for the next one, I want you to imagine we're going to New Orleans. It's Mardi Gras. We're going to go to a masquerade ball. You all ready to go with me to this ball? Yeah. All right. All right, here is the mask I purchased for our masquerade ball. Did you all see my mask? Yeah. All right, now, I want you to imagine that while I'm at this party, I meet a lovely young lady. Sparks fly, the night ends in magic. Now, thinking about me and her, I want you to focus only on the black and white bit in the middle and see if anything else pops out at you. Oh, If you see it, what are we looking at? Two people kissing? What? They're about to connect. Is there anyone who still can't see it? Okay, so it's perfect. I love, you're my favorite table. You must have just like the wrong angle. I want you, so it's two people in profile about to come in. So here's the guy's face. Here's his nose and his chin. Here's his eye and his mouth. Then there's a woman behind him coming in. Here's her mouth here and her eye. Just coming in for a smooch. All right, if you see the kissers, go back and see the mask. And if you see the mask, go back and see the kissers. Am I changing this picture at all? Is the world changing in any way right now? The wavelengths exiting this screen, entering your eyes, triggering off brains exactly the same right now as 10 seconds ago, yet we can see two different things. How are we doing this? Now, just because I love these so much, let's do one more. Now, you all know, everyone in this room knows intellectually that that square here is exactly the same color as that square there. You all know this, but I guarantee you none of you see that. What color does this one down here look like? Kind of orange. Cool. All I'm going to do is fade out the picture except for those two squares. I promise you I haven't doctored this. If you don't believe me, you can print it out later and cover it up yourself. All I'm going to do is fade it out. See if you can feel the moment when you decide, no, that's not orange, that's brown. Now, all I'm going to do is bring that picture back in. I promise you, nothing about this area of the world is about to change. You can use any scientific tool you want to measure it, to quantify it. Use your physics to give me the wavelengths. It's staying the same. Yet see if you can feel the moment when you decide, nah, it can't be brown, it must be orange. Okay. So why? What is it about this picture that makes us think this square can't be brown? Like, overall, what's going on? It's shadow. We got shadow and light. Everything in here is in light. Everything in here is in shadow. Now, we all have tons of experience with lights and shadows. We have decades of understanding that when something moves from light into shadow, the colors, the tones of that thing change, but the thing stays the same. And here the world is doing exactly what you think it should. Green changes colors, red changes colors, yellow changes colors, white changes. Everything's changing colors except for this. We know what it should be doing. It's not doing it. So guess who just changes the color for it? Welcome to the New World Order. You don't have a controller in the front of your brain. You have a coder. Sitting in the front of your brain is a module that can send signals back to every other cell within your brain. So not the program itself, the cells that run the program. Change how those cells function at the individual level so that you experience the world in the way you think it should be, not in the way it actually is. And if that sentence didn't make you feel slightly uncomfortable, then you didn't hear what I just said. Should we try it again? Sitting in the front of your brain is a module that can send signals back to every other cell within your brain, and we now know outside of your brain. Change how those cells function at the molecular level so you literally see, hear, smell, feel, taste the world as you think it should be, not as it actually is. Now let's go back to this woman. We used to think, cool, Baba gets in here, Gaga gets in here, and somewhere down the track we just interpret it differently. We now know that's not true. When your eyes are closed and you hear Baba, the very first cells in your ear to fire, you're not even in the brain yet, the very first cells to move start resonating so you hear Baba. As soon as you open your eyes and see her mouth, signals are sent here to the very first cells in your ear and they shift their position. So they start resonating Gaga or Dada or whatever the heck else we hear. It's not a down-the-track interpretation issue, it's a perception issue.
What if you hear it as Gaga, but you can see it's not matching up with the thing?
So this is your coder sending out a different, unique signal to how you think this world should be.
If you hear Baba,
Yep.
like you can just see that the lips start moving to match
but you can still hear Baba because you can push back. So this is where we get to now say, cool. For the longest time, we've spoken like this. The world is out there, it sends signals in, the brain processes it away, and congratulations, that's reality. We now know this isn't true. At any time, sure, there's a world out there, we're living in something, but at any time we can push back, and it's this we gotta deal with. And we choose what we wanna push back. You wanna hear Baba? You can make it so. You wanna hear Laurel, or what was the other one? Hardy? You can hear it. You want to see a blue and a black dress or a white and a gold dress? Cool. We are the ones who are sending back, dictating what we think we should be hearing, seeing, tasting, feeling. Now, this leads to a very important question. If this is changing all of this, then what codes the coder? What determines what signals this is going to send back to change how I experience the world? In neuroscience, we say the thing driving your coder is your schema. In psychology, we tend to say it's your concepts or your conceptual network, and that's the word you'll hear me use a lot today. But the easiest way to understand it is this. It's our stories. The stories you use to make sense of the world, how it works, how the pieces fit together, who we are, how we fit with those pieces. Those stories drive your coder. Your coder then changes all of this, and that's exactly what you get. Your stories drive your perceptions, not the other way around. How you guys doing? Now this is cute when we're playing games on the screen like, oh, it's brown, it's orange, ha-wee, yip-de-doo. But how deep does this go? Like, how real does this become? To understand, I want to tell you a quick story. This story begins with this man here, William Gladstone. Now Gladstone, does anyone know who Gladstone is, why he was famous? Poor Gladstone. So he was the British Prime Minister 4 times in the late 1800s. So politician. It's okay, I don't know even current politicians. It happens. But his true passion was Homer. So the Odyssey and the Iliad, he loved those books. He thought the secrets to life were hidden in those books. All we got to do is find them. So he spent his entire life, like people treat the Bible, he just trawled through that book trying to pull out secrets and ideas. The story takes place, he's in about his mid-30s. He's reading through the Iliad, it's the Trojan War, and he comes across a passage where Achilles is done. The war is going and Achilles has had enough, he's going to quit. And Homer writes that Achilles was going to hop into his boat and sail home across the wine-dark sea. 4 words, this whole story starts with 4 words, the wine-dark sea. Gladstone reads this and he thinks to himself, man, that's a weird choice. Like, look, I've grown up next to the ocean my whole life. I've seen it a ton of colors. I've seen it gray, I've seen it black, I've seen it dark, but I've never seen it wine colored. Like, that's a really unique choice. So he starts digging around and he notices Homer uses colors in a very weird way. So for instance, anytime Homer talks about iron, so iron tools or iron armor, it's always purple. Anytime he talks about honey, it's green. Whenever he talks about sheep, they're always violet. So sheep are violet to Homer. So he's like, man, something strange is going on here. So what he does is Gladstone just trawls through the Odyssey and the Iliad, both books, and he just counts up color words. How many times does Homer use the different color words? Let's just get a baseline. And he finds the most used color, hands down, was black. That appears 170 times. Next most used color is white. That appears about 100 times. Way down here, next most used color is red. That appears 13 times. Green and yellow each appear less than 10 times. And one major color doesn't appear anywhere in either the Odyssey or the Iliad. What is it? Blue. It just was nowhere. So he's like, man, this is weird. So the next thing he does is he goes through all of Homer's contemporaries. Every ancient Greek author he can find, trawls through their work, counts up color words, and he finds the exact same pattern. Whole lot of black, whole lot of white, little bit of red, some green, some yellow, and one color doesn't appear anywhere in any piece of ancient Greek lit. What is it? Blue. It was just nowhere. So Gladstone has to think, and he's like, I think I figured it out. Homer must have been colorblind. And by extension, every single ancient Greek author must also have been colorblind. That was his theory, that if you wanted to be a Greek author, prereq, you had to be colorblind. To hell, how do you think that theory went over? So he says this, everyone's like, no, buddy, go back to politics. They laugh at him and he drops it, never talks about it again. 20 years later, this guy comes along. Whoops. Lazarus Geiger. He hears about this and he's like, I think there's something there. I want to do some digging. So what Geiger does is he goes through every major civilization he can find around the world. So Iceland, Egypt, China, Japan, the Vedic hymns, Hebrew, you name it. He goes through all of these cultures, goes as far back as he can in their literature, just counts up color words, and he finds the exact same thing in every civilization around the world. The first color to appear in every culture's writing is always black and white. The first real color to appear is always red. Green and yellow alternate. And the last color to appear in every civilization's writing, except for one, is always what? Blue. It was nowhere in the ancient world.
Which one did it show up in?
So let me put it to you. So one of them used it first. One of them went black, white, red, green, blue, yellow. They had blue first. Any takers on who used it first? It was the Egyptians. Why? What did the Egyptians have that no one else had? Now you know why I accidentally said, oops, lapis lazuli. If you think about it, blue is a ridiculously rare color in nature. Like there's no blue buffaloes roaming the plains. There's no blue flowers. All of our blue flowers are genetically engineered to be blue. They're not natural. In fact, to this day, the only natural source of aquamarine blue we have in the world is right there, lapis lazuli. A stone mined in Afghanistan, brought down to Egypt. They could crumble it up, turn it into a paste. They made makeup out of it. They made paint. Boom. Geiger's like, I solved it. It's easy.
We're not talking about the sky, sorry.
No, that's perfect. Hold it. Stick with me. It's all going to come. No, you're spot on. I love that you're already thinking about it. It will all come true in the end. So at this point, we go, cool. Geiger says, I solved it. It's easy. Until you can produce a color, that color's just not important to you, so you don't talk about it. Most colors couldn't make the pigment, so they just didn't write about it. Egyptians could. They wrote about it. They traded the stone. Everyone had it. Everyone wrote about it. Cool. Problem solved. Everyone's like, that's wonderful. That's a great theory. And Geiger's like, I know that is a great theory. Thank you so much. Too bad I don't believe it. Geiger said, what if it's the other way around? What if instead of until I can produce a color, I just don't talk about it? It's until I know a color should exist, it doesn't. So instead of until I can make it, meh, it's until I have a concept for that thing, there is no thing there for me to talk about. Now, how do you think that theory went over? So he says this, and he almost immediately got kicked out of the scientific academy. That's how vehemently angry people got with him. Like, you can't say that. That's not scientific. That's nonsense. He gets booted, doesn't do science again. Cool. And the biggest argument everyone levied against him was, that's not scientific because you can't prove it. And that's a good point. We can't go back in time. We can't ask these people, how could you ever prove that? It's an unprovable theory. Well, cut to today. There is a tribe in Namibia called the Himba. We know their language. Guess what they don't have a word for? Now we can test this. I want to play a quick game with you. I'm going to pop a bunch of colored squares up here. One square is going to be different than the rest. All you have to do is raise your hand as soon as you see which square is different than the others. Here we go. Watch the Himba try to do this.
The next experiment is trickier for the Himba. In this one, they're shown a circle of green squares, which includes one blue square.
So again, 12 colors, and you point towards the one that is different from the other 11 colors.
For us, we have separate words for green and blue. But as the Himba have the same word for both, it takes them longer to spot the blue.
Okay, that was a difficult one, okay? The difference between the
Look at his face.
category of colors are very close to each other. For us, it's quite clear the one that is different, but for them, they have to look very hard.
Is it that he's not trying hard enough? He just doesn't see it. Now, if you want to experience what this feels like, the Himba have about 37 different words for different shades of green. Green is ridiculously important to them. It means everything from water to food to trail. So they got tons of words for green. In English, we have about 17. Same game. I'm going to pop a bunch of colored squares up. One is going to be different. Raise your hand when you see which colored square is different this time. Got one? Oh, she quit. She was in and then she was out. Now she got it. I promise you one of those is different. And when I say it's different, I don't mean it's kind of different. I mean one of those squares is very different than the other ones. Uh-oh. If it didn't jump out at you, chances are you're not going to. How many of you realize the harder you look, they all start to change? You're like, wait, oh. If you didn't get it, it's probably not going to happen. Who thinks they see it? Hit me. Which one do you think it is? That one? That one. It's not over here in this quadrant. It is not. Any other takers? Hit me. Yep. 7 o'clock. That one? No, wait, what's 7 o'clock? Hold on a second. I was testing you. Good job, everybody. Like down here, it is not in this quadrant. Oh. 10 o'clock, is that one? Bingo. If you see it, how is it different? It's got a ton more yellow in it. Like not a little bit of yellow, a ton more. Like when you click on all these squares, it just sits there in Photoshop. As soon as you click on that, the whole spectrum shifts over into yellow. It's got a ton more yellow. How many of you know this and you still can't see it? Watch the Himba do this one.
Okay, now you look at these new 12 squares. One of them again has a different color. Which one?
He's testing how long it takes them to spot a colour which is different from the others.
Now. And can you do the same thing again?
This is what they
So that's different than the one I used, so you can play again.
It's hard to spot the odd one out.
Can you point one more time towards the different color? Very good.
But for the Himba, it's easy to see the green which is different.
Our stories drive our coder. Our coder changes our brain, and that's exactly what we get. Our stories drive our perceptions, not the other way around. Now, there's one big glaring omission with this whole story, which we've already jumped on. So that white guy, that researcher in that video, he's coming out with this evidence about 12 years ago. He's like, guys, it looks like Geiger was right. And we're all watching this going, oh my goodness, this is crazy. But wait, this doesn't make sense. Why? What are we forgetting? The sky. What about the sky? You don't need blue buffaloes roaming the plains. You don't need blue flowers. We're all under the bluest thing all day, every day. What about the sky? Well, I got some bad news for you. If this theory is correct, then guess what? Sky ain't blue. The sky is only blue because we have the concepts that allow it to be blue. So how do we ever prove something like this? Luckily, the white dude in that video, the researcher in that video, he was about to have a kid. And like any good researcher does, when you have a kid, you run an experiment. So he has a baby girl and he decides, cool, I'm going to teach her colors. She'll know the color blue. She'll be able to point to this and say, that's blue. The one thing she'll never hear is that the sky should be blue. So she'll know the color, she just won't know that it belongs up there. Cool. So the whole time she's growing up, they had to control every book that was in the house. If it had a blue sky, wasn't allowed in. Every TV show she watched, every one she talked to, she just never came across the concept that the sky is blue. So she's growing up. If you ever get to hear him tell the story, it's great. She's about 2.5 years old. He says a little older than 2.5. They're out in the park. It's a perfectly blue sky day. Time to spring my trap. Let's do this. So he starts playing the color game with her. He's like, what color is that? Brown. Yay. What color is that? Black. Yay. He said, and then I did it. I pointed up. I said, what color is that? And he said, this laughing, bubbly, talkative girl just shut up. And he's like, come on, baby, what color is that? And he said, she looked up at me scared, like I was pointing at nothing. So he's like, all right, baby, just let it go. It's all good. Relax. So he just drops it, lets it go. Over the next 6 months, anytime it was a blue sky day, he'd take her outside, he'd play the color game, and he'd say, what color is that? 6 months, silence. She didn't say a word. Finally, she's a little older than 3. They're out in the park. He's playing the game. He says, what color is that? She finally said her first word. What color do you think she said? It wasn't green. White. She said the sky is white. If you ask Homer and all the ancient Greek authors, guess what color the sky always is? It's white. If you ask the Himba, guess what color it is? I wish it was green, but it's white. To the Himba, it's either white, gray, or black. It's typically white during the day, black at night, gray during sunrise and sunset. They rarely put colors in the sky. It's just not a concept to them. So for the next 6 months, anytime he said, what color is that? She said white. When she turned about 3.5, she started to alternate between saying white and blue. And he said by the time she turned 4, it was pretty consistently blue after that. But by then, they'd stopped controlling everything she read and everything she saw. And she's in preschool, so it's a real easy concept to come across. But here's how deep this gets. Something we take for granted so much as the sky is blue is only true because we have the concepts that allow it to be true. Our stories drive our coder drives our perceptions. So what? Now remember, this is a resilience conference, a talk on resilience, so I want you to take just a couple minutes, start piecing it together yourself. What does any of this have to do with resilience, with thinking, with us as teachers, if anything? Maybe it's just a fun game we just played. I don't know. What does this mean for you? How does this tie into what you've been learning? Have a chat, see what you guys come up with. Your stories? Absolutely. Bingo. Welcome to the party. I hope so. That'd be so scary if you couldn't, if you're just stuck. Oh. You can. I'm really good at it now. Right now it's pure white, but that's largely for class. All right, let's bring it back in. Sorry, I was having some really good conversations. Anyone want to share kind of what they were thinking? I love, we were having some cool chats at the front table. Anyone want to share kind of what they were thinking? What does this matter? So what? Good, bad, indifferent, pointless?
How can we change it? How can we change their controller or
Their stories.
coder? Yeah, their stories.
How do we...
And then we can make them, well, we can help them see things in a different way.
Boom. Can we change our stories? Or do you think what you got is what you got? I certainly hope that's why we're here. So definitely we can change the stories. There are a dozen ways to do it. We'll see a couple here at the end. But that ends up being one of our primary goals, is if you think about it, education almost as a whole is giving the kids the story of our society. You want to be successful, happy, and thrive in this society? Here's our story. You better learn how to fit in. Take it or hate it, leave it, love it, whatever, but that is one of our primary purposes, is to get stories into kids. Now, are we the only people influencing kids' stories? Who is probably their primary influence? Parents. You can assume from about birth to about age 5, all of their stories come from external, from their parents and from us. Once they hit from about 5 to 10, that's when things start to solidify and get cute, and then once they hit, I'd say probably 8 and above, who else is their biggest story influence? Friends. Bingo. So it's a giant social thing. But once we kind of pull it back to this base and go, okay, story seems to be the driving mechanism. How do we tap in? What are the stories the kids are coming in with? How do we change it? Do they know that they can change it? And what impact then will that have beyond that? That's kind of our entire purpose. Does anyone else want to share anything else before we push forward?
Would you say that the level of resilience that, like, we're talking about what affects the level of resilience a child or person has, and is that about the stories they have matching their coda or they're having success, you know what I mean? Like, is that what matches the level of resilience?
The story matches the context. The reason why you see that as orange instead of brown is because the context, the shadow, the light, the way this is set up, tells you this is the story you need to be playing right now. If my context says I'm doing math and my story says I can't do math, cool, I'm seeing it as orange. I can't do it. Have a good old time. So it's the context which drives the story. And this is where you start to see things like resilience. The reason why you can't teach directly resilience. We can teach strategies, we can teach concepts, but even with, you get a PhD in resilience, I promise you there will still be times in your life when you don't have resilience. Why? Because it's not a thing, it's a story that aligns with whatever context I'm in. I'm ridiculously resilient when it comes to neuroscience and stuff. As soon as it comes to emotional connection with my wife, it is so hard for me. And I get it. I'm working on my story. I'm working with her. We're changing it. It's getting easier. But that was just never my strong. I get resilience. I know how it works. I knew exactly why I couldn't do it. But my story kept pushing in, saying, oop, this is not you. Oop, this isn't safe. Oop, this isn't what you can do. Decontextualize, and all of a sudden what? Now you're resilient as can be. Why? Because I don't see the same context. Put it back in that context, and I tend to swing back into my old story. So it's the context which determines my story that I'm going to play out, and then that story determines whether or not I'm resilient or non-resilient. So you start to see, so when it comes to resilience, the foundational thing is their story for the context. Are they in a realm where they think it's okay to succeed? Cool, go to town. Are they in a realm where they think it's not okay to succeed or connect? Cool, there's your resilience underlying patterns. Does that start to make sense? Now, there's one last little piece of this puzzle that we've got to take a look at. And it's here. So our coder, right now your brain already uses 20 to 25% of all the energy in your body. This thing is just a sap. It just sucks it up. Sitting there watching TV, 25% up there. If your coder was always on, constantly rewriting programs, constantly changing stories, tweaking things, rebuilding networks, we estimate you'd only be awake 3.5 to 4 hours a day. That's how much extra juice this thing needs to change your stories and change your perceptions. So there's no way your coder can be active all the time. And the vast majority of the time, it's not. 90 to 95% of every day, your coder isn't actively doing anything. It's simply doing this. It's predicting. Right now, most of you aren't listening to me. That hurts my feelings. Right now, you all are about 1 to 2 seconds in front of me, predicting the words that are about to come out of my mouth. And so long as those words are even remotely close to what you think they should be, you experience the prediction and not the reality. That's how this gets stuck. Our stories become predictions, and we live in the predictions to save energy. I'm not lying to you when I say we don't live in this world, we live up here. And what drives this? Our stories. Use the context, cool, here's the story I'm gonna run, have a good time. We don't even have to connect. We call this concept bottom-up versus top-down processing. Bottom-up comes in, you have an automatic prediction. You know how it should be, and you just run autopilot. So imagine I say sit down and play this game. Do you all know how to play it? Is it hard? Do you need to concentrate deeply? So what are you in, prediction mode or active coder mode? Prediction, this is it, bottom up. World comes in, I know how this should be, so I just run my story, have a good time. I don't even have to be here. Top down is when the world comes in, you don't have a prediction or something else goes haywire, and you have to access your coder. So imagine I said sit down and play this game. Twilight Struggle. Where are my Twilight Struggle fans at? Good. I've been using this game for 5 years as my joke game. No one's ever played it. So there you go. I have no clue. So if I said sit down and play this, what would you have to do? Read the instructions. Figure out the pieces. Is there a strategy? This kind of looks like Risk. Can I tap? In other words, you have to access what? Your coder. Here this comes in, you don't get it. You have to turn your coder on and say, okay, do I have a story? Do I need to rebuild a story? Do I have to jig a story? In this moment, the coder comes on and you start rebuilding all of this. But play this 5 hours a day, 7 days a week for the next month. What does it become? Simple prediction. It doesn't matter how difficult something is. Once you have it on prediction, you just run autopilot. That's why you can talk on the phone while driving a car. How hard was it to learn how to drive a car? I'm teaching my 17-year-old nephew now. Oh, don't teach a kid how to drive. Oh, he did that thing yesterday where he changes lanes and everything went with him. I'm like, no. Worst experience ever. I drove here today. I'm jamming out. I'm eating a whole chicken while I'm driving. Why? Because it doesn't matter. Once I have this locked down, here's a story of driving. I get it. I'm in my context. Boom. Just run autopilot. I don't even have to connect with it. That's how the brain saves energy, but that's also our sticking point. Now, luckily, we can feel it when our coder kicks on. We have a visceral reaction that we can't miss when our coder goes active. And I want you to feel that real quick. So right now, we're all pretty much in prediction mode. So I'm going to play you a sound effect. All you got to do is have a listen and tell me, what is this sound effect? Doorbell. Cool. What's this one? Me pretending to be a cow. Wonderful. Yes. Congratulations. So this is prediction mode. World comes in. We totally get it. We're just on autopilot. This is what that feels like. Tell me, what's this sound? R2D2? Let's hear it again. A dolphin? Stop. What are you feeling in this moment? We're sitting there, it's a cow, it's adorable, everyone has a good time. This comes on. What do you feel in that moment? Confused. How many people feel slightly confused? What else? Did you say sad? Interesting. Sad. I'll take sad. How many people feel kind of sad? That's okay, but I love you. Tap into your feeling. If you're sad, you're sad. I love it. What else? What do we feel? Where do you feel it? Irritated. How many people don't like this feeling right now? Congratulations. That's the sensation of your coder kicking on. That crunch, I get it. I get it here. You can always see my eyebrows go knit. And I get this pressure right here. My wife says she feels it in her chest. It's largely uncomfortable. Welcome to the present moment. This is arguably the first time you've been here live since I've seen you. What just happened is your prediction shut down, your coder kicked on, you zipped out of your 1 to 2 seconds in the future, you zip into the present moment, your heart rate slows down, your pupils dilating, your breathing slows down. Everything is primed to learn. Right now, your coder is saying, we got to change something. Something about the world ain't making sense. We got to update. Now, let me put you out of your misery. Here's a prediction. Listen to this.
She ironed her skirt.
And now go back. What do you hear? Oh. Once you have a prediction for how the world should be, you can coast back into your prediction. Nothing about the world changed. You just have a story for it, and now you're fine. Now, some of you get how this works. So when I play this next sound, some of you will automatically hear it, no problem. Some of you, though, will go back into your coder. So here's a new sound. Some of you hear it, some of you are back into the crunch. How many of you got crunched? You're back into coder mode. Now here's your prediction.
The floor was quite slippery.
Now go back. Once you have a story for the world, you can run your autopilot and coast back into bottom-up mode. Here's a picture. What are we looking at? Must be important, otherwise he wouldn't be showing it to me. Tap in. Feel it. What are you feeling right now? Uneasy. Uncertain.
I think I'm trying to find things that I know in it.
So you're desperately sifting through old stories, saying, have I seen something like this? Where do I know?
There's a lot of things, down there, but I'm sort of like, can I make it into a Gladstone?
This is it. That crunch, that discomfort, that is your coder. In this moment, your entire system is primed to learn. You're trying to build a new story. Now let me put you out of your misery. Here's a prediction. And now that you have a prediction, watch. You can't not see it. So here is where we get this question. All right. My stories drive my coder drives my perception. That means my stories about my skills, my abilities, those things I can do, those things I can't. Those stories will determine how I interpret, perceive, interpret, and can connect with material. So if I want to change my story, what do I have? Now think about it. Most stories become simple predictions. If you ever want to change a story, what do you have to access? Your coder. You have to get into top-down mode. You ever want to change your story, you have to leave your prediction Access your coder and go to town. This is our gateway to changing stories. Now there are, and PS, that's your gateway to resilience. That's it. Now I want to get, real quick, I want to make this point clear. Yeah, we got to, okay, cool, we're going to be fine. I always keep an eye on the time. People have a tendency to take this way too far. One of the schools at Geelong Grammar, the school I was just at this morning, they unfortunately swung this pendulum way too far. And now they're trying to pull that pendulum back. Your story drives your perception. That determines what you can and can't do. So let's say I have a story that I can't do math. You tell me I'm about to do a math problem, and all of a sudden I can't do it. Let's say I change my story to I can do math. Do I magically understand math in that moment? No. Is that it? I'm done? What do I still got to do? You still got to put in the work and the effort. You still got to learn. Having the story will dictate what impact that learning has on you, but it doesn't supplement, it doesn't take away, or doesn't replace the need for that work. Too often people go, well, cool, get the right story and you're magic. No. Get the right story, and now you can get to work. Have the wrong story, all the work in the world goes nowhere. Have the right story, now it impacts you. We just finished another study back at uni. Give me a kid who says I can't do math. They study for 4 hours. We can watch, so you guys have studied plasticity today a bit, yeah? We can watch their brains start to change as they're doing the 4 hours of study. And as soon as they stop studying, guess what their brain does? Reverts right back to normal. While they're studying, the brain is trying to take it in, but the story immediately shuts it back and they go right back to normal. It was as if they didn't do anything. Now give me that same kid, they change their story to I can do math. They study for 4 hours, their brain starts to change, they stop studying, guess what their brain does? Stays. It sticks. So having the right story determines what impact our practice, our learning is going to have, but it doesn't replace the need to do those things. So this is our start when it comes to resilience especially. Having the right story is how we get through it, but that doesn't replace the need to still have to do things. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah. And that's where I think the pause ed just swung it so far. If you get every kid feeling good, they're all going to learn. No, you still got to teach them. I could have all my kids feeling great, but if I stand up here and read out of a lecture book, no one's going to learn anything. Doesn't absolve me from needing to teach well, doesn't absolve them from needing to learn well. So there's a whole world that we still got to tap into. So how do we change our stories? How do we access the coder? Dozens of ways to do it. There are 3 primary ones for us as teachers. The first is here. Don't worry about this. Is learning. Congratulations, this is what we do all day, every day. If you ever want to take in a new piece of information, it has to go through your coder. Interestingly, this process has its own little, it's called the learning trajectory. It has its own functional thing. We won't go, there's a whole day in just that. How does this learning process happen? But just know the entire purpose of learning is to access your coder, get new ideas in, change your story, get back. Access your coder, get new ideas, change your story, get back. So learning is our primary model. You want to learn anything new, it's got to go through your coder. 2, real quick, yeah, we got time. I want you to get into predictor mode. Do a quick game of tic-tac-toe with somebody near you. Just have a quick game, noughts and crosses. Let's get ourselves into prediction mode. Tic-tac-toe is fun. It's easy. All right, so we've played a couple games. We're in predictor mode. The world makes sense. Cool. Now here's what I want you to do. I want you to play tic-tac-toe again. So same thing, we're just going to play noughts and crosses, except this time I want you to lose. Play tic-tac-toe, but your goal is to lose. Watch what happens. Every time. It's like clockwork. When I say play tic-tac-toe to lose, what happened to you? What did you have to do? If you could see it from a room-wide stance, what happens is when you're playing tic-tac-toe, the noise is just kind of here. Ha, we're having a good time. Woo, yeah, this is fun. As soon as I say play tic-tac-toe to lose, it goes, okay, this is... And this just it's just silence. And then it becomes punctuated with these moments of, woo. What is going on? What do you have to do? You had to access your coder. Way number 2, change the rule set, not the difficulty. Keep cranking the difficulty, and that's good. I'll have to work at it, but what I'm doing is I'm building a deeper and deeper prediction. I do Sudokus every day. What I'm doing is just making it easier for me to do Sudokus tomorrow. I just keep locking down my prediction. But if you change the rule set on me, where my prediction now doesn't work, congratulations, I have to access my coder. But this is where resilience comes in. Remember the sensation of that coder. Remember that feeling. Most people hate it. So when you change the rule set and the kid gets that crunch, the coder gets on, what do most of them do? I don't got this, I'm done, I'm out. The resilience is tapping into that, getting that crunch, and learning to love that crunch, because congratulations. And the joke is, kids can do it. Where did I put my little clicker? I just throw stuff around the stage all day. Kids can do it. Just watch them play video games. The only reason video games are addictive is because they change the rule set, not the difficulty. Every level isn't just more of the same enemies, it's different enemies. You beat level 1, cool, here's a new strategy. They love it when they feel they're in a context where they can connect with it. They hate it when they feel they're in a context where that's going to become the dictation of their future or something like that. So change the rule set, not the difficulty. Resilience comes in accepting that crunch. Last way is here. Pop quiz. We got to get ourselves back into prediction mode now that we played our game. Here's our quiz. How many senses does the typical human being have? 5. What are they? Sight, hearing, taste, smell, touch. Cool. Some people say 6. That doesn't bother me. Fine. Cool. All right, so we're back into prediction mode. We know how the world works. We're feeling cruisy. So watch what happens when I step in and I tell you that this answer here is completely wrong. It's not even close. In fact, at last count, everyone in this room had anywhere between 17 and 21 unique senses in your body. Stop. What are you feeling right now? How many people got that crunch? You got a little concerned. You got curious. You're trying to congratulations. The easiest way to access somebody's coder is right there. Screw up. When you have a prediction that fails, you don't have a choice. Your coder automatically kicks on. Why? Why, if I have a failed prediction, would my coder automatically go? So why would the coder kick on automatically?
Because the coder set it up, so obviously the coder has to go back and...
Has to tweak something. The only reason we have stories that become predictions are to help us navigate the world. Yeah, I get how to drive prediction. But what if a deer, not a deer, what's a kangaroo, we don't really have deers here. What if a kangaroo jumped in front of my car? Is it okay to just sit in my same prediction? I need to change my prediction. When you screw up, your brain automatically says, go to coder. Why? Because this could be dangerous. This could kill me. This could be the end of my life. You need to update your story because the way you think the world is way different than the way the world actually is. In that moment, when you have a prediction that fails and your coder kicks on, you will never learn faster, easier, or better. The entire system is primed for you to learn. Problem. We don't get to choose when our coder goes on when we screw up, but we do get to choose what we do with it. So you make a mistake, your coder kicks on, everyone hits the same spot. Most kids, well, one option is to go, cool, I'm going to engage with it. You stick with that crunch, that nasty feeling. Your brain flips into a mode called theta, and that's a sign that it's physically updating itself. That's plasticity. We can watch your story changing. So if I can choose to engage with my error, what do you think my other option is? Avoid. The error alarm kicks off. I go, ooh, I don't like that feeling. Shut it down. Cool. Your brain flips into a mode called beta. 72 hours later, you'll forget that error ever happened. And we now know the exact mechanisms by which the brain erases that error from happening. 72 hours later, you'll make the same mistake if you ever come back into that context. Engage or avoid. You screw up, your coder kicks on. If we learned automatically, it'd be great, but now we get to choose stick with it or turn off. What do you think most kids choose, to engage or avoid? Why? Oh, it is so much easier. This is resilience. Screwing up, getting that crunch, getting that coder. Resilience is all about feeling that coder crunch and going, I know exactly what that is. Let's keep going. Easiest way to do that is here. Decontextualize, depersonalize. The reason you don't care that, okay, so human beings have 21 senses. I made a mistake. The reason you're all with me is because none of you stake your identity on the number of senses humans have. That's not personal to you. So when you screw up, you're willing to engage with it. But if any of you really cared about senses, and I said there isn't 5, there's 21, and your crunch went, you would go, no, we have to have 5. When I take it personally, then I'm going to shut it down. Kids take most errors during learning personally. Why? As adults, we rarely take learning personally. We love to do it. When we screw up, we don't really take it personally. Some of us do. It's fine. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but kids would be stupid not to take it personally. Our entire system is set up so that the kids with the highest scores get the highest rank, go to the highest schools. No offense, there's nothing more personal than when I screw up and that dictates I'm not going to get to go to the school I want to go to. Love it or hate it, I think that's the stupidest damn system. That's what I'm working to change right now. But there's a reason why kids personalize it, and it's the context we've built around school. We know to get kids to engage with errors, they have to depersonalize errors. The easiest way to do it, to start the process, is to understand this process, is to understand the power of stories, is to understand how this whole thing happens. What is the coder? Why does this go off? But if I can tell my kids all day, love errors, but if the truth is they make an error and they don't get to graduate, they'd be stupid to listen to me. So it has to become a contextual thing. What do we have set up in the school as a whole that allows people to start depersonalizing errors and sticking with them? All right, I've taken you guys way too far. I am so sorry for taking you over the limit. If you're curious, see, look at all that stuff we didn't get to see. Shameless plug, I have a book. Yay! Some of you got the book as a gift. I love it. I'm happy to sign it or talk to you, whatever you want. I do have some more copies too. I sell them for $20. So if you want one, happy to sell one to you. If not, no pressure. Anyways, thank you guys for hanging out with me. I hope you had a great day. Yep.
So if your brain can change things so significantly,
Yep.
how do you know what's real?
Welcome to the world.
So is it like your coder only clicks in so significantly if it's life or death?
The coder doesn't know what's life. Here's where, if we have a long time, this is what I work with when I work with kids. It's scary as hell to assume this and to recognize this, but the world isn't the way we think it is. It's not even close to the way we think it is. But we have enough of a story that gets us through it. So the way we understand it is good enough for us. And that's all the brain cares about is, cool, are you going to survive another day? Brain doesn't care about good, bad, right, wrong, healthy, unhealthy. The brain cares only about, cool, what are you asking me to do? Is it going to kill me? What are you asking me to do? Is it going to kill me? Other than that, welcome to philosophy. We don't know what's real. We don't know what's not. I'm going to stick around for a bit, so feel free to come bother me. I'll be happy to answer questions, whatever you guys need. Thank you guys for hanging out.